The twin suns of Korvath burned hot over the dust-covered colony. The air smelled of metal, sweat, and fear. A great marketplace stretched across the open square, filled with cages, chains, and shouting traders. Alien species of every kind walked between stalls, bargaining, yelling, and sometimes laughing at the suffering of those locked in iron restraints. The human traveler walked slowly through the crowd. His boots sank a little into the red dirt, and his eyes scanned each stall. He had come here only for supplies, fuel cells, food packs, and perhaps a few mechanical parts for his ship. But everywhere his gaze went, he saw misery. Thin figures crouched in cages, chained like animals. The sound of clinking iron and cries for mercy followed him wherever he turned. He told himself not to get involved. This was not his world, not his fight. On colonies like Korvath, slavery was business. Interfering meant trouble. And then he saw her. At the far end of the row, almost hidden in the shadows of a large metal stall, a small alien girl sat on the ground. Her wrists were bound by heavy shackles, and a chain was fixed to a post like she was some kind of beast. She was dirty, her hair tangled, her thin clothes torn. She crouched low, almost like an animal taught to obey by fear. Traders around her laughed and pointed, calling her a dog-child in their language. For a moment, the human almost walked past. But then the girl lifted her face. Her eyes were huge, shining even through the dust on her cheeks. They were not the eyes of a beast. They were the eyes of someone who had not yet given up hope, though she was very close. When their gazes met, the girl leaned forward. Her lips trembled as she whispered words she had probably rehearsed many times before. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the chaos of the market like a blade. "Can you buy me and take me as your slave?" The human froze. He had expected a cry for help, maybe a plea for freedom. But this was different. She was begging not to be free, but to be owned. He frowned, confused. "Why would you ask me that?" he muttered under his breath. The girl's chain rattled as she crawled forward, her knees scraping against the rough ground. She kept her head low, her posture trained to submission, but her words shook with desperation. "If you buy me," she said, "I will live. If you do not, I will be beaten, maybe killed. Please. Just take me. I can serve. I can obey. Just don't leave me here." The human felt the eyes of the traders on him. Some of them laughed. One of them, a thick-armed merchant with green skin and tusks, stepped closer. "She's useless," the merchant said in a harsh voice. "Too small to work. Too weak to fight. But she'll fetch a price for entertainment. You want her, human? Pay up, and she's yours. Otherwise, step away." The human's jaw tightened. He could see now that the girl's arms were covered in bruises, old and new. Her thin frame shook as she tried to keep still, afraid that even the smallest movement might earn her a beating. She kept her eyes on the ground, but every few seconds she glanced up at him, as if silently begging him not to walk away. The crowd grew louder. Other buyers circled, whispering, considering. The human knew that if he hesitated, someone else would take her. And if that happened, he didn't want to imagine the life she would be forced into. But why him? Why had she chosen him, of all the strangers passing by? The girl spoke again, her voice breaking. "You looked at me like I was not an animal. Please. I saw it in your eyes. Please take me." The words struck him like a hammer. He remembered telling himself not to get involved. He remembered all the reasons to stay silent, to keep walking, to buy his supplies and leave this cursed colony behind. And yet, as he stood in the center of the marketplace, with the suns burning down on him and 100 alien eyes watching, he knew the moment had already chosen him. The merchant growled impatiently. "Well, human? Do you want her, or not? I don't have all day." The human's heart pounded. Around him, the noise of the market grew sharper, louder, as though the world itself leaned in to hear his answer. He looked once more at the girl, this child treated worse than a dog, this fragile being who still dared to hope. And in that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. The market grew quiet for a heartbeat as the human stepped closer to the chained girl. Traders leaned forward, waiting to see his choice. The girl's trembling eyes never left his face, as if her life depended on his next words. The merchant, impatient, slammed a thick hand against the iron post. The chain rattled violently, making the girl flinch. You want her, human? Pay, or walk away. Don't waste my time. But the human did not answer immediately. He studied the girl again, her bruised wrists, her broken posture, her desperate hope. He felt something stirring inside, something he had not allowed himself to feel in years, anger. Not at her. At the system that put her here. He reached for his credit chip. The merchant's eyes gleamed with greed, but before the human could hand it over, another voice rang out. I'll pay double. The crowd shifted. A tall alien in dark robes stepped forward, his eyes glowing faintly. His species was known for cruelty and experiments. Whispers spread quickly, a collector. The merchant licked his lips, torn between offers. Double, eh? That's a strong price for trash. The human's chest tightened. He could feel the girl stiffen, her hope trembling. She whispered, barely audible, please, don't let him take me. The robed alien smirked. She's rare. Her kind is nearly gone. I know what she is worth. The human's eyes narrowed. Worth? He hadn't seen worth, he had only seen a broken child. But now, suspicion began to creep in. Was she more than she appeared? The merchant barked a laugh. If you both want her, then bid it out. Highest price wins. The human clenched his fist. This wasn't just a bargain anymore. It was a battle. He slammed his credit chip down on the stall. 3 times the price. The crowd gasped. Even the merchant blinked. That was enough to buy a small ship. The girl's eyes widened. She whispered again, this time with disbelief, you would pay that much for me? But before the merchant could agree, the robed alien hissed, his voice cold as stone. You don't understand what you are buying, human. That girl carries danger in her blood. She is not a slave. She is a weapon. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. The human's heartbeat quickened. Weapon? The girl lowered her head in shame, as if the alien had spoken the truth she wished to hide. The merchant, sensing profit, laughed again. A weapon, eh? Then maybe I charge too little. But the human cut him off, his voice sharp. No. She is a child. And I'll take her. The robed alien stepped closer, his glowing eyes fixed on the girl. You are a fool, human. Buy her, and death will follow you. The tension thickened. Traders leaned in. The girl's chains shook as she tried to crawl backward, fear written all over her face. The human picked up the credit chip and thrust it into the merchant's hand. Deal. The merchant grinned wide, pocketing the fortune. She's yours. Break the chain. The human reached down, his hand brushing the cold iron link that bound her. The girl looked up, tears glistening. She whispered, not begging this time, but trembling with something close to wonder. You didn't buy a slave. You bought me. And as the chain fell to the ground with a loud clang, the crowd erupted, some in cheers, some in outrage. The robed alien's glowing eyes narrowed. He turned away, but his words echoed like a curse in the human's mind. You cannot run from what she is. And when the time comes, she will not save you. She will destroy you. The human lifted the girl to her feet, shielding her from the hostile stares. The bargain was complete, but he knew this was not an ending. It was the beginning. The chain hit the ground with a heavy clang, echoing across the market. For the first time in years, the alien girl's wrists were free. She rubbed them slowly, staring in disbelief at the broken iron, as if afraid it might snap back and bind her again. The human placed a steady hand on her shoulder. You're coming with me, he said firmly. His voice was calm, but inside, his pulse raced. He could feel dozens of eyes drilling into his back, traders, guards, and the robed alien who had tried to outbid him. The merchant laughed, stuffing the credits into his pouch. Enjoy your purchase, human. But don't say I didn't warn you. That was when the first shout came. Stop him. He broke the laws of trade. The girl froze, terror flashing across her face. Guards in rusted armor shoved through the crowd, weapons raised. In Korvath, freeing a slave without registry meant one thing, death. The human's hand tightened on hers. Run! They sprinted. The market erupted into chaos, traders yelling, slaves crying out, guards blowing horns of alarm. The girl stumbled, unused to freedom, but the human pulled her along. Dust rose around them as boots thundered behind. Arrows of plasma lit the air. One struck a stall near them, exploding in sparks. The girl screamed, covering her ears. The human dragged her into a narrow alley, weaving through stacked crates and hanging wires. "This way," he urged, pulling her toward the docking bay. But they weren't alone. The robed alien stepped from the shadows ahead, his glowing eyes burning like embers. "You think you can take her from here? Foolish." He raised a hand, and the ground itself seemed to tremble. The girl collapsed, clutching her head, as if some invisible weight pressed down on her. Her breath came ragged, her body shaking. The human dropped to his knees beside her. "What's happening?" The robed alien's smile was cold. "She cannot hide from what she is. The blood in her veins answers to me." The human pulled her close, shielding her. "She's not yours." With a desperate effort, the girl opened her eyes. "Don't let him take me." Her voice shook, but there was something else in it, a vibration, a resonance, like two voices overlapping. The human stared, stunned. Was this what the alien meant? Was this the weapon hidden inside her? The robed alien stepped forward. "Give her to me, and I may let you live." The human rose to his feet, blocking the way. "Over my dead body." And then the girl screamed. It wasn't just a sound, it was a wave. The air rippled outward, shattering glass, knocking crates aside, sending guards flying back into the street. The robed alien staggered, his control breaking. The human caught the girl before she fell. Her body was weak, trembling, but her chains of fear had snapped as surely as the iron on her wrists. The docking bay was close. He lifted her into his arms and ran, weaving through the chaos. Sirens blared. The robed alien shouted after them, his voice a promise of vengeance. "You cannot keep her. She will bring destruction to all who shelter her." The human ignored him, pushing through the final gate. His ship loomed ahead, its engines glowing faintly. Guards swarmed behind, but he slammed the hatch shut and powered the thrusters. As the ship lifted from the ground, the girl clutched his arm, whispering through her exhaustion. "You didn't buy a slave, you freed a prisoner." The human looked down at her, his jaw set. "And I'll keep you free. Whatever it takes." Outside, the colony shrank into the distance. But inside the ship, a new question burned between them. What was she really? And why had fate placed her in his hands? The stars stretched into long streams of light as the ship jumped into hyperspace. The colony of Korvath vanished behind them, but the tension inside the cockpit clung like smoke. The human leaned back in the pilot's chair, breathing hard. His hands still shook from the chase, from the girl's strange outburst that had blasted soldiers off their feet. The controls beeped softly, steadying into autopilot, but his mind refused to calm. The girl sat curled in the co-pilot's seat, knees to her chest, chains still dangling loosely from her ankles. Her eyes were distant, as if afraid even to look at him. For a long time, neither spoke. The silence was broken only by the hum of the engines. Finally, he turned toward her. "What was that back there?" he asked softly. "The scream." Her small hands clenched tighter around her knees. "I told you," she whispered, "I'm not worth saving. I'm dangerous." "You're a child," he said firmly. "You didn't ask for this." She shook her head, her hair falling over her face. "You don't understand. My voice, it destroys. That man in the market, he wanted me because of it. Others will come too. They always come." His jaw tightened. He thought of the robed alien's glowing eyes, the way he had spoken as though her bloodline was a curse. Weapon. Destruction. Words that tasted of fear and greed. He leaned forward, resting a hand gently on her arm. She flinched but didn't pull away. "Listen. You're free now. Whatever they think you are, you're not their property. You're not anyone's weapon." Her eyes lifted, shimmering with confusion. "Then, what am I to you?" The question struck him like a blade. He wanted to answer, but words caught in his throat. Instead, he only said, "Someone worth protecting." For the first time, A fragile smile touched her lips. But the moment didn't last. The ship jolted violently. Warning alarms flared across the dashboard. A sensor pinged, multiple vessels in pursuit. The human cursed under his breath. "They're faster than I thought." The girl's fragile smile vanished. "It's him," she whispered. "The one with glowing eyes. His following." The display confirmed it. 3 pursuit crafts locked on their trajectory. He slammed the controls. "Hold on." The ship swerved through the lanes of hyperspace, diving into a sharp exit vector. Stars bent, then snapped back into pinpoints as they dropped near an abandoned system, 2 cracked planets orbiting a dying sun. The humans' ship rattled as they skimmed the debris field of shattered asteroids. The hunters followed, their engines glowing red. The girl pressed her face to the viewport, fear turning her voice thin. "We can't outrun them." He gritted his teeth. "Then we'll outsmart them." The chase turned into a deadly dance. The human dodged fragments of rock, weaving through narrow gaps, every second dragging them closer to destruction. Plasma fire lit the darkness, explosions echoing across the void. At one point, a blast rocked their ship, sparks flying from the control panel. The girl screamed, gripping his arm. "Stay with me," he told her, refusing to let panic win. Then, as another volley closed in, the girl's eyes glowed faintly. Her breath came fast. "I can help." He glanced at her, startled. "How?" She touched the metal frame of the ship. Her chains rattled softly, but her voice carried a new strength. "The same way I broke them." Before he could stop her, she began to hum. Not a scream this time, something low, resonant. The sound vibrated through the cockpit, through the walls, through the ship itself. The nearest asteroid shattered into 1,000 shards, spinning like knives into the path of the hunters. 2 crafts were torn apart instantly, swallowed in fire. The third veered off, retreating into the black. The hum faded, and the girl collapsed back into her seat, exhausted. The human caught her before she fell. Her body trembled, but her eyes glowed with faint defiance. "See? This is why they want me. This is why they'll never stop chasing." The human held her steady, his voice low but fierce. "Then let them come. As long as I'm breathing, they'll never take you." The ship sailed onward, leaving behind wreckage and silence. But neither of them knew that the message of the battle had already spread across the stars. The hunters had failed, but the galaxy had learned something dangerous. The weapon was no longer in chains. The ship drifted silently through the void, its engines cooling after the desperate chase. Inside, the cockpit was dim, the only light coming from blinking controls and the faint stars beyond the glass. The human sat opposite the alien girl. She had fallen asleep from exhaustion, curled up on the chair with chains still wrapped loosely around her ankles. He watched her quietly, his thoughts heavy. He had seen soldiers, pirates, and even warlords. But never a child who could shatter stone and silence ships with a single voice. "What are you?" The thought whispered through his mind. As if sensing it, the girl stirred. Her eyes fluttered open. She stared at him for a long moment, then whispered, "You're afraid of me." The human shook his head. "No. I'm afraid of what they'll do to you. That's different." Her small fingers traced the iron on her ankle. "Everyone who learns the truth fears me. Even my own people." He leaned forward, voice steady. "Then tell me, what is the truth?" Her lips trembled, but she spoke. "I'm not just a slave. I'm heir to the Chorus bloodline." The name meant nothing to him. He frowned. "Chorus?" She nodded. "Long ago, my kind ruled worlds not with weapons, but with voice. We could command stone, bend storms, even shake the void itself. But when war came, they feared us. They said we were too dangerous, too powerful. So they hunted us down." Her eyes darkened. "They killed my family. They put chains on the children. I am one of the last." The human sat back, the weight of her words sinking deep. Not a weapon. Not just a child. A princess of a fallen race, carrying a power the galaxy wanted either chained or destroyed. "You're not a weapon," he said quietly. But she shook her head. "I destroyed those ships, didn't I? That's what weapons do." He wanted to argue, but before he could, alarms blared across the cockpit. Sensors lit up red. Incoming signal, he muttered, checking the screen. A transmission forced its way through the comms, full of static, but a voice rose from it, low, cold, unmistakable. "You cannot hide her, human." The girl gasped, pressing herself against the seat. She knew that voice. The robed alien's image flickered onto the display, his glowing eyes burning through the distortion. "She carries the chorus bloodline. Do you understand what that means? Entire fleets fell to her ancestors. Entire worlds bowed to their voices. And you think you can protect her?" He laughed, the sound sharp as a blade. The human's hands tightened on the controls. "I don't care what you think she is. She's not yours." The alien leaned closer to the display, his face twisting into a sneer. "She is not yours either. You freed her, yes, but freedom for her is death. Every empire will hunt her. Every ruler will pay for her head. You have doomed yourself, human. And you have doomed her." The transmission cut. Silence filled the cockpit again. The girl's eyes brimmed with tears. "He's right. You should have left me in the chains. At least then, you would be safe." The human rose from his chair, kneeling beside her. He placed both hands gently on her shoulders, meeting her frightened gaze. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "You are not chains. You are not doom. You're a child who deserves to live without fear. Let them call you dangerous. Let them call you a weapon. To me, you're worth every risk." The girl's breath caught. No one had ever said such words to her before. For the first time, the light in her eyes was not fear, but something like hope. Yet, far beyond their small ship, the signal of her awakening voice had already spread across the stars. Fleets stirred. Hunters plotted. And whispers ran through the galaxy once more. The chorus bloodline lives. The ship drifted through the shadows of a dying nebula. Gas clouds glowed faint green and violet, hiding them like a blanket of mist. 4 hours, the human had kept their course erratic, trying to lose pursuit. But deep down, he knew, pursuit never ended. The alien girl sat quietly at the observation window, staring at the streaks of color. Her reflection looked fragile, but her eyes carried the weight of storms. Ever since the transmission, she hadn't spoken much. Finally, she whispered, "He won't stop." The human glanced at her. "Then we won't stop either. Let him chase. He'll find out we're not so easy to break." She turned to him, uncertain. "You believe that, but you don't know what's coming." Before he could answer, alarms shrieked through the cockpit. Red lights pulsed. He rushed to the controls. Multiple ships inbound. The girl's heart sank. "It's him." The scanners confirmed it, 5 hunter crafts closing fast. The robed alien was no longer alone, he had brought a fleet. The human gritted his teeth, pushing the thrusters. "Hold tight." The nebula lit with fire as plasma bolts streaked past. The hunters had them surrounded. One ship darted in front, cutting off their path. The girl clutched the armrest. "We can't run this time." "No," the human muttered, determination hardening in his eyes. "We fight." The hunters opened fire. The ship rocked, sparks raining from the ceiling. Systems screamed in protest. The human swore under his breath, trying to stabilize. Then he felt her hand on his arm. Her voice was soft, but it carried a strange resonance. "Let me try." He looked at her, torn between fear and hope. "You'll burn yourself out again." She met his gaze steadily. "Better that, than watching them chain me again." Before he could stop her, she stood in the center of the cockpit, closing her eyes. Her chains clinked as her body swayed. A low hum began to rise from her chest, soft at first, then spreading through the walls of the ship. The nebula itself seemed to shiver. Gas clouds vibrated, glowing brighter. The hum turned into a layered harmony, deep and haunting. Outside, the hunters faltered. Their ships shook violently as the vibration struck. One by one, their engines sputtered. Metal frames twisted, alarms blaring across their comms. The girl's voice climbed higher, weaving like 1,000 echoes. The nebula answered her call, clouds swirling, lightning sparking through the mist. The hunters panicked. "Retreat! Retreat!" But it was too late. A surge of energy pulsed from her like a tidal wave. The nebula erupted, collapsing around the hunters. 3 ships vanished in fire. The rest scattered, fleeing into the dark. Silence returned. Only the hum of their small ship remained. The girl collapsed, gasping for breath. The human caught her before she hit the floor. Her body shook violently, her eyes unfocused. "Easy," he whispered, holding her close. "It's over." Her voice was faint, broken. "No, it's not. They'll come back. More of them. Always more." He tightened his grip. "Then let them. You're not the hunted anymore. Did you see them? They ran. They're afraid of you." She blinked up at him, her breath uneven. For the first time, the truth settled in her heart. She wasn't just prey. She wasn't just a chained child. She was something they feared. And fear could be power. The human looked out at the wreckage drifting in the nebula, the hunters scattered like insects. He knew they hadn't won the war, only one battle. But it was enough to prove something vital. The girl wasn't doomed to chains. She was becoming a storm. The wreckage of the hunters still floated in the nebula behind them, glowing like broken embers in the dark. But the human knew they could not hide forever. Sooner or later, the galaxy would come hunting again. The girl sat in silence at the viewport, her small frame wrapped in a blanket. The chains that once bound her ankles lay on the floor, broken and useless. Her eyes lingered on them, but her voice carried no fear anymore. "Everywhere I go, they will follow," she said softly. "Because I carry the chorus bloodline." The human leaned against the controls, watching her carefully. "Then maybe it's time they stop seeing you as a prize, and start seeing you as who you really are." Before she could answer, the ship's sensors pinged. A fleet appeared on the horizon, vast, but not hostile. Their symbols were different, not traders, not hunters. Royal crests glowed bright on their hulls. The girl's breath caught. She recognized them. The Chorus Guardians. The fleet surrounded them but did not fire. Instead, a transmission came through, the voice deep and reverent. "To the lost daughter of the chorus, we have heard your voice. We come to bring you home." Her heart pounded. For so long, she had been a chained orphan, forgotten and sold like an animal. Now, before her, stood the last remnants of her people, the ones who had survived in exile, waiting for their heir to return. But she hesitated. She turned to the human, fear and hope twisting together. "If I go with them, will I lose my freedom again? Will I just become their weapon?" The human knelt beside her, his voice steady. "That depends on you. You're not a weapon, not a slave, not a curse. You get to choose who you are. Chains or crown, it's your decision." Her eyes shimmered. Slowly, she rose from her seat, stepping toward the communication console. The Guardian's hologram flickered, waiting. She lifted her chin. Her voice was clear, stronger than it had ever been. "I am no one's slave. No one's weapon. I am the daughter of the chorus, and I will not hide anymore." The Guardians bowed deeply. "Then we will serve you as our rightful princess." Tears welled in her eyes, not of fear, but of release. She turned back to the human. "You gave me this chance. Without you, I'd still be on the ground, chained like a dog." He shook his head. "No. You always had the power. You just needed someone to remind you." The girl stepped closer, pressing her small hand against his chest. "Then promise me, even as princess, even with a crown, I won't lose what you gave me." He smiled faintly. "What's that?" Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "The chance to be seen as me." Outside, the Guardians prepared an escort. Inside, the girl stood taller than ever before, not crouched, not trembling, but steady. The chains at her feet were nothing but relics now. And as the human watched her take her first step toward her people, he knew one thing with certainty. He had not bought a slave. He had freed a princess. And the galaxy would never be the same again.